Good afternoon to you. It is 5:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, we'll be joined by Brandon Judd. He's the head of the Border Patrol Union. We'll get his perspective on the border crisis. I've been looking forward to speaking with him. We'll have a good conversation ahead. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Here's a bit of audio from earlier today. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York making a big announcement.
My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the United States Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today I'm announcing that my office has obtained a 3-count indictment charging Senator Robert Menendez, his wife Nadine Menendez, and 3 New Jersey businessmen, while Hannah, Jose Uribe, and Fred Davies, for bribery offenses. The investigation that led to these charges has been run out of the Southern District of New York. The indictment alleges that between 2018 and 2022, Senator Menendez, the senior U.S. Senator from New Jersey and the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and his wife Nadine Menendez, engaged in a corrupt relationship with Hannah, Uribe, and Davies.
Prosecutors saying that Bob Menendez and his wife over the past few years have been taking bribes in the form of cars, gold bars, and cold hard cash in order to do the business of the Egyptian government, as well as to take care of his friends who are being pursued in other criminal cases. For more on this, I want to bring in Chuck Ross. He is a reporter for the Washington Free Beacon, and he's been all over the Menendez story for years. Chuck, good to talk to you, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me.
I mean, let's just starting with the basics here. This is cartoonish. The fact that he was taking bribes in the form of gold bars and cash being stuffed into every pocket in his house. I mean, what is this?
Yeah, that's the perfect word for it. It's cartoonish. It's like straight out central casting for bribery scam. The gold bar thing is just a sweet chef's kiss on top of it all. Federal agents raided his house last year and found hundreds of thousands of dollars in gold bars, $480,000 in actual cash, which is a ton of cash to be carrying around. And it was pouring out, it was stuffed in his clothing, his dresser, his safe. It's just pretty much it's a smoking gun indictment.
It's brazen.
They have, yeah. And but it's not a surprise for Menendez, of course, because he has a history of accepting bribes in exchange for political favors. He was indicted, as your audience knows, back in 2015 for doing favors for a con man down in Florida, an eye doctor. Charges were dropped in that case, and a lot of people have said today that this current case, is even stronger than the previous one. So, it's like I said, it's very brazen, cartoonish.
Yeah.
Not to be surprised. Not surprising.
And it's pretty obvious in the indictment, based on all of the data that investigators have pulled, that Menendez and his wife seem to be very aware that they're doing something that they shouldn't. Because throughout the indictment, they keep referencing that the Menendez couple would delete their messages that implicated their criminality. They were routinely deleting text messages that showed a connection between the money that they were receiving and the acts they were taking on behalf of, say, foreign powers.
Yeah, and it's right there. It's the cartoonish part of it too is that they're acknowledging the crimes in text message form. I mean, you kind of figure that someone as savvy as Bob Menendez, one of the most powerful senators in the country, would think not to do that if you're going to commit crimes. But that's bringing him conspiracy charges, which are very serious charges. I mean, it's on top of the actual bribery, but then the fact that he is conspiring with his wife and business partners to hide the evidence is going to make it even a stronger case against him, and probably should he go to jail down the road, probably add extra years onto his sentence.
Yes.
So yeah, and he's out with a statement today, of course, saying he's going to fight the charges, and he did nothing wrong, and he's suggesting that there's racism at play here, that he's being targeted because he's Latino. But beside all that, I mean, but the evidence, if you read through it and then the evidence itself is so strong, and then, as you said, the fact that they're talking about hiding the evidence supports the case. So, I mean, it's almost a smoking gun.
Yes,
say.
for sure. Now, I can't help but notice, well, a bunch of things, but one of them is it seems like the money was flowing to his wife, Nadine. She was the way that the payments were coming into the family. She was given at one point what prosecutors describe as either a no-show or low-show job, working for a company here in the United States whose job it was to stamp food and classify whether or not it was considered halal for export into Egypt. And apparently they had created this big monopoly with this company, that they were the only company in the country that was allowed to make that designation for food that was being exported from America into Egypt. And Menendez's wife is making a bunch of money. I read through the indictment. I didn't see any evidence that she did any work at all for this company.
No, I hate to step on probably what you're going to ask me later, but it kind of reminds you of another alleged bribery scheme going on right now, right? A family member for a powerful person doing all the legwork, getting paid for doing virtually nothing. It reminds you of someone else in power.
Yes,
Joe
it does.
Biden, of course. But
yes, it does.
No.
I do. You're totally right about that. I want to dwell on that in just a moment. But it strikes me that this is the arrangement here. So what you have is a family member who is the conduit for all this cash, and Menendez must have thought, we can get away with this as long as it's my wife who's taking all of this, and then we claim that she's friends with this guy who's paying her, then nobody's going to hassle us.
Yeah. And reading through the indictment, what it reads like to me, and this is no defense of Menendez at all, but he started dating his current wife back in 2018, right after he was cleared in the previous bribery case, by the way.
Yes.
Soon after that, they started dating. She introduces him to some Egyptian officials, and this starts the wheels in motion of the scheme that they're now indicted for. So it reads like his wife kind of got him into this stuff by introducing Menendez to some shady individuals, and then they do all sorts of things. He intervenes on behalf of a guy selling halal meat to Egypt. He starts providing sensitive U.S. government information to the Egyptian intelligence officers. That's actually the biggest and most damning, I think, allegation in the whole indictment, that this wasn't just that, like, he was providing low-level help to his cronies.
Yes.
He was providing American information to the Egyptian government and Egyptian intelligence officers, information about U.S. Embassy in Cairo, which the information wasn't classified, but it was sensitive because it was information about diplomats there. He was doing some very high-level favors.
It specifically said how many Americans are there at that embassy. It's the kind of thing that a country tries to protect because they don't want to imperil them.
Exactly. We had Benghazi, I mean, this is, 10 years removed, but still we have situations where obviously information about embassies and consulates should be closely held. And Menendez, who is chairman, well, he just stepped down, but he is chairman of one of the most powerful committees in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It just makes it even worse that a guy in that position is essentially selling secret information to the Egyptian government for gold bars, cash, a Mercedes-Benz, mortgage payments, all these things. It's just mind-boggling, actually, how deep the conspiracy and the bribery went, and then also just the information he was giving away.
There's another piece to this. There's a lot of crimes alleged here, and a lot of foul play. There's a piece where he was trying to avoid or trying to help basically a criminal defendant avoid consequences for alleged crimes, and he began interviewing U.S. attorneys in order to establish whether or not they would go easy on the defendant. He was being bribed to achieve that outcome. It's amazing, and it's exactly the kind of corruption that so many Americans are worried about with our justice system.
Yeah, and this is one reason why this case seems very, very strong. He spoke to so many different people as part of this scheme. There are going to be so many witnesses against him, I believe, that it's going to be hard for him to get out of these charges. But the other brazen one was that he as a senator in New Jersey had the power, the position to be able to recommend U.S. attorneys in that state to President Biden, and he used that to his advantage by personally interviewing candidates for it. And one of the questions he asked was whether the nominee would recuse himself from an investigation into one of Menendez's friends, one of the guys who gave him some gold bars. And so Menendez asked this point blank question to the candidates, and when one of them said he would probably have to recuse from the investigation, Menendez decided not to nominate him. The next guy he spoke to, the current U.S. attorney there, said he would play ball, and so Menendez put his name forward, and voila, he's now the U.S. attorney in New Jersey, which seems like it will turn into a scandal, a separate scandal of its own.
Yes.
Down the pike, because that seems a lot of quid pro quo there. So
yeah, that's strange. The U.S. attorney for the Southern District today, the one who announced these indictments, he suggested that none of the current government officials have acted at the behest of Menendez, suggesting that they seem to be fine. But I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath here. I'm going to wait for a little bit more information before I can come to any conclusion about this. But I want to go back to what you mentioned a moment ago, the Hunter Biden comparisons, which I think are totally worth making now. How can you bring a prosecution like this against Bob Menendez and then look at all of the evidence against the Biden family and not say that they deserve something equal or even more aggressive?
Yeah, it's hard to make that argument. And at the very least, we would hope that the Justice Department looked into the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden stuff with the same intensity that they did in Menendez, because for one, Joe Biden is in a higher position of power. But it's a similar pattern, using a family member as kind of the front person here to interact with the people paying you. It gives the person in power, Menendez or Biden or whoever, a degree of, they can claim plausible deniability that they were actually involved in the scheme at hand. And we have, going back to Biden, I mean, we already have whistleblowers. We have credible evidence that the Justice Department did not fully investigate credible bribery and allegations involving the Bidens. Whistleblowers have said that they were told to not go down certain avenues. FBI shows up at Menendez's house and raids his house and finds all this evidence. Contrast that with how the FBI refused or blocked interviews with Hunter Biden at a crucial point in their investigation. So, we could compare and contrast those
and if you're looking for tabloid comparisons too, look at the ways that Hunter Biden received this wealth. I mean, there was a Kazakh businessman who gave Hunter Biden $142,000 so he could buy his Porsche. He bought a Porsche for the guy. And meanwhile, a Chinese executive gave Hunter Biden a 3-carat gem ring as well. The same kind of patterns exist here in the Biden family saga, and that includes Joe Biden's hand in affecting U.S. policy on behalf of Hunter Biden's clients. If you're going to charge Bob Menendez, you better have a Joe Biden charge lined up behind it.
No, that's an excellent point. The similarities are just, I mean, you can't make it up. The jewelry, cars, and if we want to compare even more, like Hunter got even more money than Menendez got for his scam. So it's even. And it's broader. It's also with China and Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Romania and a bunch of other countries. I mean, all we can, trying to find out to the degree to which the Justice Department looked into Biden. It looks like they didn't go very far because they're probably worried about what they would find.
And before I let you go, Chuck, I know your job is to do reporting and to tell us what you actually know, but I do want to engage in some speculation for a moment, which is, why is this happening now? I mean, the fact that Bob Menendez is a corrupt U.S. senator is not a secret in Washington. In fact, it is very well known. And about a decade ago, a left-wing organization called the Center for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, which is a left-wing accountability group, now I believe run by David Brock, regardless, they once considered Bob Menendez one of the most corrupt people in the city. They said that a decade ago. So why now, in your view? Is there a tactical reason for this beyond simply a blind examination of the law here? We just saw some corruption and now we're charging him.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's hard for me to speculate on that. I mean, I know there are theories out there now that this is being brought so that Damian Williams, the prosecutor in Manhattan, or the Justice Department in general, can kind of use that to justify going after Trump on the other side,
right?
To show that they're willing to go after Democrats and all this stuff. I mean, it's a plausible argument for sure. I just honestly can't. But the other alternative is that Menendez's case was so blatant and the evidence was so strong that, even if the Justice Department wants to put their thumb on the scale for Democrats, they just couldn't ignore it because the case was just too strong. So that gives them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But I'm open to any of the theories. With this Justice Department, I believe anything.
Totally, and this Justice Department has the lowest approval rating of our lifetime. I mean, Americans have no confidence in this Justice Department, and they desperately need to demonstrate to the public some, equal justice here. And I'm sure this will be pushed out a lot. Oh, look, we're prosecuting Menendez. How could you question and claim that we have a two-tier system? And it's, of course, ridiculous. Yep. But it's happening. We're watching it. Okay, thank you very much, Chuck Ross, as always, for all of your excellent reporting and analysis, sir. Good to talk to you today. Yes, indeed. Let's take a phone call here. We've got Mike calling in from Sunshine, line 2. Mike, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
A Democratic senator is being indicted for monetizing political power. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in the world. So I'm going to speculate. He either did not spread the graft around to his buds, or he didn't fulfill the promises he made to get the gold bullion. Those are probably the two reasons why a Democrat might get indicted for monetizing political power.
Yeah, maybe he got in somebody's way. He crossed somebody he shouldn't have, and they decided to call out the hit. It is interesting. It's fascinating. You're right. You're right to look at this with a lot of skepticism. That's how I feel about it today. There's something going on here. We always knew he was corrupt, and they're picking this moment. But another interesting piece to this story is they're not closing ranks around him either. They're not doing the he's innocent until proven guilty thing. Schumer just removed him from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The former Attorney General Eric Holder is now calling on him to resign. And the governor of New Jersey, just in the last hour, Phil Murphy, Democrat, a man who doesn't believe in the Constitution, just called on Bob Menendez to resign. The talking points are out. Coming up next, Brandon Judd. Good afternoon to you. 536 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The border crisis, it's still happening. Karine Jean-Pierre Caringe asked about it today by Fox News' Peter Ducey.
When you spoke last month and you said, we are stopping the flow at the border, is 10,000 migrants in a single day stopping the flow?
What I will say is, I just mentioned 250 individuals have been stopped who do not have the legal pathway from coming in. That has been since May 12th. And as we are, looking at Eagle Pass, and I know this is where kind of the issue is at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
CBP quickly surged resources and personnel to the area, and thanks to their great work, we're able to swiftly vetted and processed into custody more than 2,500 individuals and cleared the area where migrants had congregated. And that's the work of our law enforcement. That's the work of our law enforcement at the border. Remember, House Republicans are trying to cut that. They're trying to cut that.
The Border Patrol, of course, stretched very thin, and the Biden administration now trying to take credit for the average agent in the field trying to sort through all of this. Let me get Brandon Judd in here. He's the president of the National Border Patrol Council, and he joins us now. Sir, good to have you back with us. Thank you.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Just if you could, a lot to talk about, but give me a broad overview of how the Border Patrol is doing right now and what you think of the administration's messaging on this of late.
I'm sick to my stomach every single time I hear her speak. All she does is lies to the American people, which makes us a lot less safe. When you look at the Border Patrol, it's not that we're stretched thin. It's almost that we're nearly non-existent on the border right now. The vast majority of our resources right now are doing administrative duties, not law enforcement duties, administrative duties. When she says that we took people into custody and we processed them for release. We didn't turn them back. She says that we turned them back at the border. That's not true. It is a lie. We take them into custody, we process them, we release them into the United States. That's why people continue to come. We are rewarding them. We're not giving them a consequence. We're rewarding them for violating our laws. And anytime that you reward people for violating our laws, they're going to continue to come. But it goes way beyond that. That's what allows the cartels to generate a record profit. It's what allows the cartels to push fentanyl through our porous borders where we have no Border Patrol agents right now. It's what allows the cartels to traffic these young children into sex slavery. You know, the indentured servitude that's taking place. When you have people that are coming from China that are paying upwards of $50,000 to get to the United States, they don't have $50,000 lying around, so they go into indentured servitude. Everything that is happening is under this administration, and it's all based upon policy. It's based upon politics. President Biden cares more about his reelection prospects than he does the American people. He cares more about his reelection prospects than he does the people that are crossing the borders illegally. All he cares about is what's in it for him.
And they've shown no evidence of attempting to slow this down in any capacity because just this week they passed temporary protective status, another quasi-amnesty for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans who are illegally in the United States right now, meaning that they're going to supplant American workers having violated our laws to get in the first place. You had some time ago, Alejandro Mayorkas, very early in the administration, announced that illegal presence in the country alone is not enough to get deported. What kind of message does that send when the DHS secretary says that illegal immigration is no longer a punishable crime?
That's the magnet. That's what draws people. That's what allows the cartels to generate that profit. It allows them to go throughout the world. It's not just Central America, Mexico, Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti. It's throughout the entire world, 160 different countries. That's what we're dealing with. It allows the cartels to go out and advertise their services. All they do is say, look at what the administration is doing. They're releasing you. Look, the administration just gave Venezuelans work permits. They're going to give you work permits too as long as you flood the border. Everything that they're doing is more magnets that allows that encourages people to come to our country illegally. Again, this is illegal immigration, not legal. Illegal immigration that is taking place, and this administration does absolutely nothing. It's funny because I get asked all the time in media interviews whether or not these Democrat mayors like Eric Adams and his outspokenness on the crisis, if that's going to stop him. And the answer is no, it's not going to stop him because there's not enough people that are upset about this from the far left.
But
There's
also, even Mayor Eric Adams, it's kind of a scam, actually. His outrage is meant to induce more federal tax money being spent on New York, and he refuses to cease being a sanctuary city. So he's the reason things are as bad as they are in New York.
He is, and you're absolutely correct. All he's doing, he's not crying about slowing down the border. He's not crying about shutting down the border. If he did that, maybe we would get something. All he wants is more money. Look, Alejandro Mayorkas is going to be with the Honduran president in RGV to tour the border. All that's about is for the Honduran president to ask for more money from the United States. More American taxpayer dollars is going to Honduras. This is a corrupt government. We're going to give them more money. They're going to facilitate even more trafficking. They want these people to be here in the United States. They know that the remittances that go back into Honduras helps their economy. So if they get young people coming into the United States and they're sending money back to support their family in Honduras, that helps Honduras. Why wouldn't they want that? That's why they push so many people to crash our borders. It's crazy to think that this administration continues to worry about themselves rather than the American people.
All right, so Eagle Pass, Texas, has declared a state of emergency because the number of people who are pouring into their city, it just dwarfs their entire population. And I saw a video this week shared by Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, and it shows 2 Border Patrol agents cutting through razor wire and then pulling it out of the way to allow more illegals into the country. And I presume they're doing this because the Biden administration, of course, is telling they work. I mean, the Border Patrol does work for Joe Biden ultimately. But what is this? What is this about? Why? What is happening right now? And how angry is a Border Patrol agent that he's tasked with not securing the border, but instead letting more people in?
Extremely upset that we're getting orders that are telling us to cut those fences to take these people in custody. Unfortunately, that is a lawful order, and if we're given a lawful order, we have to follow it. Once somebody enters our country, the moment they set foot into the United States, we have to take them into custody. And if they're on the banks of the Rio Grande, they're in the United States, and we have to cut the razor wire to get to them, we have to. We want to see them repelled. We want to see the state of Texas succeed. But the moment they enter into the United States, if we are given an order, we have to follow that order. And that's very unfortunate for every single one of us. And that's what creates the morale problem that you see. Anytime that you have as huge of a morale problem as we have, you're going to see people that are leaving the Border Patrol. We have one of the highest attrition rates in the entire federal government, and it's simply because we cannot do the job that we want to do to protect the American people.
What is the relationship like, to your knowledge, between the Border Patrol and, say, the Texas National Guard? You do have some of these states, specifically Texas, who are trying to get control of all of this. What is it?
Yeah, I speak with Governor Abbott on a regular basis. I know him very, very well. The agents, they work very well with the National Guard. Every single one of us want the exact same thing. We want the American people to be safe. It's just their mission is a little bit different than ours. They're allowed to, they're being deployed by a governor that wants to do the right thing. We're being deployed by an administration that wants to pander open border activists. And anytime that happens, you're going to have, the mission is going to clash. Yeah. The people get along, but the mission clashes.
So when people come into the United States and then they walk right up to a Border Patrol agent and turn themselves in, which is what's happening every day to the tune of thousands upon thousands each day, what happens after that? Because the impression I have is, and just based on how much coverage we've done here of the subject, is that American taxpayer dollars are going into these NGOs, which pack people into buses and they distribute them all across the country. I mean, this is, at this point, what does that look like, that processing? Are people just immediately ending up on a bus and sprinting into the country?
So what happens is we take people into custody for violating our laws. We then take them, we transport them back to our Border Patrol stations, we fingerprint them, and we process them for removal. That's just paperwork. We put them in the removal proceedings, but because we don't have detention space to hold them, or because this administration orders their release, we then walk them out our door. We take them to, in the Rio Grande Valley, we take them to the Greyhound bus station. They then walk across the street to Catholic Charities, which is a non-governmental organization, is being funded by our government, and then the Catholic Charities, then, like you said, they disperse them throughout the entire United States. It's not just that they're going to New York; they're going to Ames, Iowa. They're going to Kansas City, Missouri. They're going throughout the entire United States. They're going to Maine. They're going to Florida. And
they're given the choice. They're not being forced to go any particular place, right? They're actually told, this bus is going to this location. Would you like to get on it?
Yeah, the moment we release them, they're free. They're free. They're out of our custody. They're free to go throughout the United States. Now, they're supposed to show up to their court appearances, and this again is what is so frustrating. This is another part of the process. This administration says that they are processing these individuals for removal. That's true. We do process them for removal. But the moment we release them, they're out of our custody. They don't show up to their court dates. This nearly 8 million people that have either been released into the United States or have been able to cross our borders illegally and evade apprehension, they're never leaving our country because we're never going to be able to go after them. This administration prioritizes only criminals, and they have specifically said the act of being in the country illegally is not enough for us to take them into custody and deport them.
Yeah, which of course has stimulated, as you said, has created this crisis even more. So what are your counterparts in ICE doing then these days? Do they actually do anything now? Because the Biden administration seems to not want them to be doing any sort of job.
I mean, ICE does continue to deport the criminal aliens, those that have committed serious felonies. They do continue to deport them. Homeland Security Investigations does continue to do investigations into sex trafficking, but it's all been gutted. Everything has been gutted. They continue to do a skeleton job of what we're supposed to be doing, just like the Border Patrol. We're doing a skeleton job of what we're supposed to be doing. The mere look like something is going on so that Karine Jean-Pierre can get up there and lie to the American people, when in reality, behind the scenes, we're doing absolutely nothing of what we're supposed to be doing.
Last one for you, Brandon Judd, and thank you very much as always for your time. I've been trying to say a lot more lately that I think people need to concentrate on how much death our border crisis is causing. Yeah. You mentioned the drugs, hundreds of thousands of people dying each year in the United States. You mentioned the sex trafficking, the human trafficking. Another feature of this, unfortunately, is all of the death that's on the border. We've seen stories of just this past week, a 3-year-old washing ashore dead. As a result of trying to make the journey into the United States, with the cartels bringing the kid in. So, can you talk about that and
Absolutely.
and how much should that play a role in, say, impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas yesterday?
It's all about looking at the actions and the results of those actions. Don't listen to the words. Don't listen to Karine Jean-Pierre. Watch the actions. Look at that. Look at the evidence, and then judge it off of that. When you look at this administration, they say that they care about people. What we have more than tripled the number of deaths of people that are crossing our borders illegally than what we have in any other previous administration. We have people that are drowning on a daily basis. We have people that are succumbing to the elements in the desert, the harsh deserts of Arizona on a daily basis. All of this is happening because this administration continues to invite people to cross our borders illegally. If they believed in the rule of law, we would be able to save those lives because those people wouldn't be crossing our borders illegally. We would be able to save the lives of the citizens of our country because we would be able to go after the fentanyl. We would be able to go after the cartels. We would be able to stop the sex trafficking because, again, our hands would be freed to do what we're supposed to be doing. This administration gives a lot of lip service to an awful lot of things, but their actions completely betray everything that they say. We've got to stop. We've got to start watching their actions, judging them by that, not by what they say.
Yeah, it's and by the way, I think a graphic piece of journalism is long overdue on the horrors that are going on at our border. I think America needs to see what's happening, and otherwise the ignorance will continue and the crisis will continue, unfortunately. Brandon Judd, thank you very much for all of your time, effort, and your time today. Really appreciate it, sir. All right, Corey, our producer, has given me something that is apparently very amusing. So let us judge it together. This is, you remember the Lincoln Project? They have nothing to do with the great president, American President Abraham Lincoln. They're just guys who hate Trump. It's a group of guys who hate Trump. That's it. They say that they used to be Republicans. They've always just been, Washington leeches, I think. But here's their commercial. They say Joe Biden's age is not a concern. It's an asset.
Decades of leadership, a lifetime of experience, and rock-solid determination to rebuild America.
I love it already. Did they mention that it's all built on lies, that he sits on a throne of lies?
Joe Biden's plan for America's economic comeback is working.
Barf.
The highest job growth in the world.
What?
Inflation coming down faster than any other major nation.
It's still going up every month.
The prices families pay for everything from gas to groceries.
20% higher.
Fast. Hope and optimism coming back.
Where?
His tireless work to build a stronger America.
Tireless?
We're respected again.
He works 3 hours a day.
A respected America is a safer America.
We're respected.
Joe Biden's years have taught him leadership, wisdom.
Did you see the Brazilian president this week? He practically insulted Biden on stage.
How to ignore the noise and focus on the people.
He doesn't ignore the noise. He's not aware the noise is happening.
He's a president for every American.
What?
Making the hard decisions with compassion, heart, and respect.
Unless you're an unborn child. He's not for you.
That's Joe Biden, America's president.
America's president. Was that real? Did you... It doesn't sound like Corey's voice. I don't think he recorded that. So, yeah, have yourself a good chuckle. The great one, Mark Levin, is up next here on WMAL.